Hello and welcome to A Court of Wings and Ruin. I finished reading it yesterday. I'm gonna do a recap because Read with Cindy did a recap. I honestly think I only read these books so I can watch her. Faerie is a human who kills some wolf, and because of some treaty, she now has to live with a handsome fairy named Tamlin. They fall in love, but he gets abducted by some evil queen named Amarantha, but Faerie frees him. Faerie dies, but then she gets revived as a fairy, and they are in love. The end. Book 2. They are about to get married. Tamlin is abusive now, so Faerie runs off with the villain from book 1, Rysand. They fall in love. Also, some king wants to kill them all now and start a war, so we have to stop that. At the king's palace, they get separated, and Faerie pretends to be in love with Tamlin again so that her boyfriend and her sisters can flee. Faerie is now at the spring court. She decided to reinvent herself, to have her hot girl summer if you want. No longer a damsel. She is now a super cool and conniving girl boss. She still has thoughts, but only badass thoughts, and she still paints, but only badass paintings. She is an actress. She is a master manipulator, a master magician. Don't think about it. Don't think why she suddenly knows how to control all of her powers. Just don't think about it. Never think in this book. If you start to think, you're gonna lose. Her girl boss plan: destroy the spring court from the inside because the spring court sucks and Tamlin sucks and we hate Tamlin. This is an anti-Tamlin club. Revolution. Girl boss things. That girl who sold out her sisters, Iante, is also there. But we have pretended to forgive her because we have a plan. Tamlin announces that some people from Hybern will come to the spring court to look for something. The scene is set. Girl boss things. So who arrives from Hybern? Jurian, along with 2 Hybern magician twins called blah blah and who's to say what they're called? But they're weird and powerful and old and incesty because the ghost of Cassandra Clare will not rest until you've made it weird. Faerie, Lucian, the twins, and Jurian go on little missions around the wall to see the holes and how to get the army of Hybern through. Now, finally, Faerie's plan goes into motion. When did she plan this? Who knows? I don't even know why she thinks this is a good idea. I think she said it, but I don't know anymore. There's a party, solstice. Iante does some magic ritual, but instead of some light shining on Iante, Faerie made it shine on her, so that Tamlin's people think she is #blessed. That she is blessed. First step, gatekeep. Second step, make Tamlin have no friends. After solstice, not wanting to have sex with Tamlin, she pretends to have a nightmare and goes to Lucian's room. And then she's like, "Oh, I had a nightmare, comfort me." And they hug, and in that moment, Tamlin comes in, creating tension. Making him maybe think, is Faerie faithful? Second step, gaslight, seduction, girl boss things. Next step, Iante is super mad that light shone on Faerie and not her, so she pretends to know things and makes some soldier-led monsters into the spring court. It's boring, okay? So then she says to Tamlin, "Look what I found. He let monsters in here." And then Tamlin's like, "I have to punish you." But then Faerie, she knows it was Iante, and then she unearths it. But then Iante is like, "That's so stupid, punish that soldier anyway." And so Tamlin does punish the soldier, and the soldier's like, "See, oh my god, Faerie took our side, Tamlin is stupid, we should not trust him anymore." Make him have no friends and no army, and nobody likes Tamlin. Last step, Faerie is a spy, so now she does spy stuff. And she eats an apple on another one of their trips. She listens to the Brab, whatever their name is, talk and finds out information. The king wants to bring the wall down. I don't know what they talked about. but it doesn't matter. She has enough information. She says, now I can go home. She wants to go to the night court to see her boothing. And while she is on her way to go back, she sees something. It's Iante and Lucian. And what I never told you before is that Iante is a little hoe, but also she's a little rapist hoe. And she tries to make a move on Lucian, Lucian is like, no. And she is like, I know you want me. So Faerie goes in between and says, don't touch him, and punches her and makes her break her hand. And after that, after she like beats Iante, the twins show up. Plot twist. They have put Faebane into her apple and all of the food. Faebane is like some magic stuff that makes your magic go away, so you have no powers. But before her powers go out, Faerie, who has trained for 6 months, might I say, totally and badassly defeats the twins and kills them. And Lucian is still like there, and he's like, you want to run away. You've been pretending this entire time, haven't you? And Faerie's like, yeah, I hate you, Lucian. But then Lucian is like, hey, I have the mating bond with Elaine, your sister. Let me come with you. I want to see Elaine. And then Faerie takes him. Because they're besties. Look who finally grew a backbone. I think it's a little late for Lucian to develop a personality, but hey. Her powers being stolen by the Faebane, they travel by foot on several days through the Autumn Court. They just basically walk and wait until their powers come back. I never told you this, but Lucian is actually from the Autumn Court. And he doesn't live there anymore and had a fight with his family because they killed his girlfriend. Anyway, in the Autumn Court, they get trapped twice by Lucian's awful brothers. The only important one, sort of, is Eris. And Eris is like Moore's ex-fiance. So Moore's tragic backstory is that when it was discovered that she was really powerful, the first instinct of her father was to sell her off as basically a prize mare to other courts to bear offspring. And it was decided that she should marry Eris, who is the oldest son of the Autumn Court, and she didn't want to, so she had like sex with Cassian to make her worth less because virginity is important. Her father beat her, and then she was put on the border of the Autumn Court, and Eris said like, ew, gross, and rejected her. Everyone's so sad in the book. Like, not a single woman has like a happy, like, okay time. While we're at it, Azriel is in love with Moore. Faerie and Lucian get rescued by Cassian and Azriel. They go back to Valoris. There is like a big, huge reunion scene. She sinks to her knees when she sees Lysander. And then he also sinks to his knees, but for other reasons. There's like a very lackluster sex scene, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm gonna read you some of it later. This entire book, I'm just so unenchanted by Rysand and Faerie. They're just so healthy and so happy, and they're like, please, no, call me out on my ship. No, please call me out on my shit. We should grow together. I love you too. Let's have sex. There's no conflict. Nothing happens. I want drama, okay? I want hands to be thrown. Faerie visits her sisters. Nesta is a bitch. Cassian is also like really in love with her, and she is such a bitch to him. She is so mean. Elaine is a shell of herself. She just stares at things, doesn't eat. She misses her human fiance, and Lucian's there, and he's like, I'm in love with you, and she's like, so what? So the gang, or the family, as Faerie tries to convince you to think of them as, have a meeting to discuss what to do. The war is coming. Hybern is readying its army. They're ginormous. We don't have enough soldiers. We need allies and warriors. Can you imagine being like a nobody and some weird powerful people get into a fight and now you have to die? They also decide that Nesta and Elaine, who fell into the cauldron and now are immortal, have super special powers, and that Nesta's power is death, and they just say that, and then it never gets explained what her powers are. Don't think about it, okay? But she trains like with Amren, but they just meditate a lot. They hope her powers can fix the holes in the wall. Miriam and Drakon have mysteriously disappeared. Nobody can find them or their forces. Lastly, they plan a meeting with all of the High Lords to pretty please ask them to fight against Hybern together. Faerie trains with Cassian and Asriel. She decides to learn how to fly. Then Faerie decides to recruit the Bone Carver from Book 2, which is that thing that knows things, to help them in the war. And so she goes there and says, hey, can you please help us? And he's like, okay, but only if you give me a super special mirror called the Mirror of Ouroboros. The Ouroboros. The Mirror of Ouroboros. The Bone Carver is apparently like an old god that's super powerful, like Amren. She is also a god, but like in a human form. Don't think about it. The gods appear a lot in this book. Don't think about them. Don't think about them at all. Honestly, The Vampire Diaries has much better world building than this, at least the first 4 seasons. The gang now goes to the Court of Nightmares to ask Mor's dad, Keir, to pretty please let them have his armies to fight Hybern. And Keir's like, okay, by the way, I hate you more, and you are all sluts because I'm a misogynist. And then he's like, okay, but I want to go to Velaris, and the people from the Court of Nightmares also all want to go to Velaris because it sucks down here. And then Mor's like, no, I hate you, Dad. And then Rysand says yes, and then Mor is mad, but then Mor is not mad, and that's it. Faerie also asks him, can I please have the Mirror of Ouroboros, because he has it. And he says, okay, if you can bear to look at it, because if you look at it, people say you go crazy. And she decides not to take it. Next, we talk with Amren. Amren is there. Amren's like, oh my god, you talk to the Bone Carver. I hate the Bone Carver. She also says that she can never like use her real powers that she has because the body she's in is only like bound. She's like a god. So if she was ever to be unbound and fight, then she would not remember her friends at all. Foreshadowing. Her other job includes looking into the Book of Breathings and trying to find out a spell on how to destroy the cauldron. Lucian is there the entire time, by the way, and all he does is like mope around. Nesta hates him and Elaine doesn't give a shit about him. The fuck you want from me? I have a human fiance who now hates me because I'm a fairy. Anyway, Elaine doesn't seem interested. He just stares longingly. By the way, Elaine and Asriel are super cute. I think we should pick up on Elaine and Asriel. They're super cute at some point. But sadly, we are stuck with Faerie in her boring brain. I would actually be open to learn more about Nesta and Cassian and Asriel and whoever the fuck during flight training with Asriel. Miss Mass, her editor, called her and was like, Sarah, yeah? Everyone is straight in this book. This cannot work. We need to give the girls representation. Okay, thank you. I know exactly what to do. Faerie is super bad at flying, and so Asriel tells her this boring, irrelevant story about this person with wings called Nefeli, who once saved Miriam from dying. And she was not supposed to fly, but then she flew. It's unimportant. Anyway, Nefeli has a wife. Oh my god, Nefeli, girl, our homegirl has a wife? Oh my god, that forgettable and unnecessary character has a wife? Not my girl Nefeli. Thank you. I feel so strong and empowered now. I feel seen. Like, if she had made people like queer this entire time, I probably wouldn't even mention it. But it seems to me that in the 3rd book, she specifically realized that that was lacking. Because there's just so much of it now. Everyone is gay now. Next scene. I hope you did not forget that Rysand is a woke king. Okay, he has a library and all the people that work there are survivors of SA. Rysand saved all of them. We never need to forget. He is with the woman. He is with the culture. In that library, two Hybern soldiers break in and try to kidnap Nesta and Faerie because apparently Nesta stole some of the power from the cauldron when she was tossed into the soup. And they also try to abduct Faerie, but it is completely irrelevant, just like when the Attar tried to abduct Faerie in book 2, because they try once and then they fail and then they never try again. To defeat them, Faerie makes some bargain with the monster that lives down in the library, called Brixus. Brixus. It's also an old god. There's so many old gods, don't think about them. She makes a bargain with the monster. The bargain is never brought up again. There are so many loose threads in the story, you could probably weave a carpet. Then Asriel then realizes that Elaine is in fact not crazy, but that she also, her special power is being a seer. Sure, she sees the future. Elaine has some sort of vision, and in it she sees a bird queen named Vasa, who once was one of the 6 mortal queens, but they hated her because she didn't want to ally with Hybern, and so they sold her to another ancient god who made her into a bird. Where did this bird queen come from? Why are we introducing a new powerful ally at the last moment? Is Sarah J. Maas like setting up some spin-off trilogy where it's about the bird queen? Bog bitch. Lucian then, because he has nothing to do, then decides to go find the bird queen. Finally, battle happens. Hybern attacks the summer court. And the gang and their soldiers all go to the summer court to help out Tarquin. They go help them because they're Gryffindors. Mor and Faerie and everybody fights and fights so much. And Rysand sees the king, but the king is an illusion. And then the fight is over and they go to Tarquin. And Tarquin is like, hey, I hated you before, but now we are friends again. With peace and love. Go away. Finally, the meeting of the 7 High Lords comes around. They meet at the Dawn Court. Everybody is there. And you know who also shows up? Tamlin. Apparently his country got overrun by Hybern. Faerie, in her internal wisdom and compassion, has just left the door wide open for Hybern to come in and take over because Tamlin had no control anymore, and they killed all of the villages and the people in it. And we just gloss over that. You know, you would think that would torture Faerie more, as she is always so morally uptight the entire time of the book. Don't do that, that's wrong, I shouldn't look into other people's head. But then people die because of her stupid plan, and she's like, oh, I was so happy when Tamlin showed up. I missed him. He really brings the drama to the Jersey Shore. The girls are finally fighting. I love it. Let me read you some of it. Tamlin also says he is a good guy now again. He is not working with Hybern anymore. He also said he never wanted to work with Hybern and he always wanted to fight them. It would seem congratulations are in order. We can discuss the matter at hand later, Tamlin said calmly. Don't stop on my account. The light in Rysand's eyes guttered, as if a hand of darkness wiped away those stars, but he reclined in his chair, withdrawing his hand from my knee to trace idle circles on his seized wooden arm. I'm not in the business of discussing our plans with enemies. No, Tamlin said with equal ease. You're just in the business of fucking them. Points were made. But we're at it. Let's address the High Lords. You were thinking, wow, is our girl Nepheli not enough representation? Apparently not. One of the High Lords is bisexual or pansexual, and yes, he is promiscuous and likes to have threesomes. He's also Lucian's father. This, I don't know why he's here. It never gets brought up again. It never gets revealed. It's just there so we can have yet another sad backstory of a woman in pain about Lucian's mother, how she was beaten, and yeah. Thank you for the unnecessary tragic life story of yet another broken woman in this book. One High Lord is also gay. You know, I don't even know his name, but that was his most important personality trait. Then, wham bam, thank you ma'am, Nesta falls to the ground. What happened? Oh my god. All their looking for how to fix the holes in the wall were unnecessary because the King of Hybern just destroyed the wall. But Faerie and the gang goes to see Elaine's ex-fiancé, Grayson, and they say, hey, you're rich, take in the people please to protect them from Hybern. And then Elaine is also there. And then Grayson says, I hate you, Elaine, you are a fairy. And Elaine cries. Oh, poor Elaine. She lost a musty, gross, human man who gave her an iron engagement ring without a diamond and received immortality, beauty, and powers. Poor her. Let's all cry for poor Elaine. Guess who's also there? Jurian. Plot twist. Juri has been our bestie this entire time. Jurian is also a girl boss. He is also a spy. He apparently has been on the good guy side this entire time, and he has spied on Hybern for us, and he's not crazy, and he doesn't want to kill Miriam and Drakon. He just wants to say sorry. Mend the bridge. I'm sorry I tried to murder you. Jurian also says that Tamlin was still evil and he is not good, and that he went straight back to Hybern after their High Lord meeting. He says that Hybern is planning another attack the following day in the Summer Court. It happens. They fight yet another pointless battle. During the battle, Faerie sees that things are weird, and this is not the true army. And so she decides to visit her other bestie, the Suriel, and the Suriel tells her that Nesta can find the other armies. Yeah. Also, she says where in the Book of Breathings the spell is for Amryn and the cauldron and whatever. Then Iante shows up and she's like, I'ma kill you. And then Faerie is like, I think not, you trick-ass bitch. And she leads her to the cottage of the Weaver, who showed up in book 2, who is also an old god. And then the Weaver kills Iante. Good riddance. Mor and Faerie have a fight after the battle, because Faerie ran off without telling Mor. And so Faerie is like, bitch, you want to talk about not trusting, not telling the truth? What is up with you and Adriel? And then Mor goes away. Then Nesta does some magic to go find the cauldron and the army of Hybern. They find it, but then the cauldron steals Elaine, cause it hates Nesta. Don't think about it. Faerie and Asriel get her back immediately. So when they try to escape, they almost get caught, but then they get saved by Tamlin, because he has been good this entire time. Don't think about it. Then the editor called again and said, Sarah, you have to stop making all of the background characters who barely say more than a word gay. You have to do more for the girls and the gays. Okay. Turns out, Mor tells Faerie that she is a friend of Ellen, a DIY earring maker, a WNBA watcher, a $1 bean can, a coochie connoisseur, a vagina whisperer. Yes, Mor is a lesbian. Yes, she has had sex with men. She prefers women. You know, usually I would be like, okay, this is fine. So what? She likes coochie, don't we all? But then I feel so bad for Asriel. This girl has intentionally strung him along for 500 years. Like, she didn't even have to come out of the closet. She at no point I could have maybe said to him, hey babe, never gonna happen, not interested. And it's framed that she couldn't do that because she's gay. Like, she knows he's in love with her. You're making all of us look bad. Then it is time for the final battle. Rhysand gives a speech saying we're all friends and I love you and you are the greatest treasure there is to life. Before the battle, however, Faerie has a secret. She went to retrieve the bone carver. She has looked into the mirror of Uralala And in it she saw herself. She saw her true self, and that is bad. And then it's over. And she's not insane. And it's stupid. She also made a deal with the monster in the library and now also fights with them. Rysand also made such a deal, but with the Weaver. The final battle happens. There are only 5 courts. Spring and autumn did not come, and there are far too many Highburn soldiers, and they are far outnumbered. Everything seems bad. Jurian shows up with the army of fiancé of Elaine, and Tamlin shows up with his armies, and he also made the Autumn Court show up. So they all join them to fight, because they're friends, and Tamlin is a bestie. They fight, but then, wow, everything seems bad again, because the Bone Carver gets killed by the cauldron. What a waste of time. But then, bam, another plot twist happens. Guess who also shows up to fight? Miriam and Drakan and their armies out of nowhere. And then, guess who also shows up? The Bird Queen. The Bird Queen also has armies. And now my least favorite and favorite thing happens, which is that Lucian really can't do anything because he has not found the Bird Queen at all. Guess who found the Bird Queen? Nesta Elaine's and Favor's father found the Bird Queen. Where has he been? He has not been around since book 1. How does he even know that his daughters are fairies? How did he even know about the war? What the fuck is happening here? Amren, Faere, Elaine, and Nesta have this plan to destroy the cauldron, which they can do because they're super special. However, they split up. Nesta decides to pose as bait to lure the king away from the cauldron, and she takes Cassian with her. Only Amren and Faere go to the cauldron. When she touches the cauldron, Faere magically goes to where Nesta and Cassian is, and she sees the battle. And long story short, their father dies. Elaine stabs the king from behind, and then Nesta kills him, and now he is dead. And you would think, oh, the story is over. It is not, because then Faere returns to her body, and Amren says, hey, we cannot destroy the cauldron. In the Book of Breathings, on the page that the serial told me, is actually the spell on how to unbind me, and I will forget you, but it will be okay, and again I will fight, and I will kill everyone, and I'm so powerful, and hello, my name is Amren. Faere's like, no, we love you, Amren, but then she does. So she says the spell, Amren is in the soup, and then Amren becomes a monster, and she fights, and she kills everyone, and I'm so confused. If she doesn't remember anybody in her monster form, how does she know who to kill? Look at me, thinking about it. That was mistake number 1. Okay, you would think now everything is good. No, it is not. This book still has 50 more pages. Because of that powerful magic thing, I guess, the cauldron is now destroyed. And with it, the world will be destroyed. So Rysand comes and says, hey Faere, you special little snowflake, go repair the cauldron, make a new one. And Faere can do that, because Faere can do anything. She doesn't have enough power. So Rysand says, hey, take my power. But he also doesn't have enough power. The Girlboss rebuilds the cauldron. But then, guess what? It took so much power that Rysand is dead now. The end. Book is over. Of course it's not over. So then she cries. And then she goes to the High Lords and says, hey, make him go back alive. And they're like, okay. So they all put their voodoo magic on Rysand, including Tamlin. And Tamlin looks at Faere and says, be happy, Faere. And then Rysand comes back to life. Weirdly enough, he has no powers of the other High Lords, because the book needs to finish. There can't be more conflict. Amren is also now a fairy and not a god anymore, because she didn't want to go back to her old world, because she wanted to be with her friends. Oh, Lucian also returns from having accomplished absolutely nothing. The war is over. Faere calls a meeting between like all of the important war people. In the meeting, they decide to make a new treaty so that humans and fairies will one day live in peace. The saddest thing about the whole book is in the end, when Tamlin comes to the meeting and he sees Lucian, his only best friend, in the clothes of the Court of Nightmares, and he is with Faerie, and it's so sad. He has no friends. I mean, is he really that bad? I mean, don't we all murder people sometimes? I mean, he has PTSD. What am I, a Tamlin apologist? The end is just the gang happy in Velaris and Faerie saying some vague messages, like how you shouldn't have hate in your heart. She sends a letter to Tamlin that says, "Thank you, I hope you are happy too one day." Look at her, extending an olive branch, after she destroyed his whole court. And then the gang is happy in Velaris, and then it's over. Then the book is over. What did we take away from this book? Well, I took away that I am personally offended that Faerie is not a teen mom. What was the point of half of book 2 if she doesn't end up pregnant? You know, in the beginning of the book, of this book, there's a scene where none of her clothes fit her anymore. And you're like, pregnant? And then the bone carver turns into what their future child will look like, and you're like, pregnant? And then Faerie throws up multiple times, and you're like, pregnant? And then no. I don't know if I should approach this book or the series at all in a serious manner. I think maybe because I did, it sort of made the second book a little boring for me. However, I think I have pinpointed my main issue with this entire series. Sarah must think I am stupid because I know everything I need to know about Rysand by the things he says and doesn't say. I know he lets her choose stuff. I know he treats her well. I know he lets her make her own decisions. I know he's woke, okay? But I don't think that Sarah thinks you're capable of understanding that about him, because she goes on and on, out of her fucking way, to repeat again and again in Faerie's awful inner dialogue, her contrived and cringy monologues about how Rysand is the greatest fucking person ever. He is so fucking amazing and feminist, and he let me choose what I ate this morning. Oh God, I love him so much. I know how good he is. I know. Stop trying to remind me every time. I know Tamlin is evil. Stop reminding me every second. There is so much unnecessary, stupid dinner dialogue about Rysand and how amazing Rysand is. We know. I know. Faerie is so painfully flawless and so self-aware, and she can just do anything, and she never wants to mind anybody's business. And isn't Faerie great? And isn't Rysand great? And aren't they so great? The word mate is used 202 times. I know. Okay? I know. I know Rysand sweats the bell jar. I know he eats the suffragette movement for breakfast. I know he leans in, okay? I know. And you don't have to mention every single time that he makes her come first. God, for me to know that he is the best. I love you, Rysand. Everybody is just so fucking great and so flawless all the time that it's just completely unintriguing. The characters are just so stupid and 2D, and there's never conflict ever. Having a sad backstory and a sad life does not equate for a deep and important person. A lot of us are sad, okay? Why introduce all of this shit in your last book? Why is there a fucking bird queen? Who is that? Why is everybody a god now? Originally, I wanted to rate this book a 3 out of 5. Because I still think I've seen worse. But thinking about it now, have I? I still give the first book a 5 out of 5 for personal reasons. The second, I changed my mind, 2.5 out of 5. You are mediocre, feel like it. And this book, 2 out of 5 points. I feel like they get worse every time. There's a fourth book. It's this one. It's super short. It's a companion book about a pharaoh throwing a party. What I hope this is finally having a look into the much more interesting relationships all over the book that we just somehow don't care about. I think she should make a series of these companion books, which will just be tying up loose plot points. Like, one will be about Cassian and Nesta having to pretend to date to make her ex-boyfriend jealous, but then falling in love. Another one will be about Lucian and Elaine and Adriel. Adriel is a vampire and Lucian is a werewolf. And then the third will be just Moore's happy lesbian bar hopping experience. Okay, what do I like about this book series? I like Adriel. I think only because he never says anything, but I like him. Cassian, because he is 6'3". The Winter Court has polar bear warriors. I sort of like Amryn, but only because she drinks blood. This is such a downer ending. So to sort of sweeten the deal, I guess, I'm now going to read you some of my favorite sex scenes. I'm glad you have a sense of humor about this. I certainly don't. I sent back an image of me sticking out my tongue at him. My clothes were back on when his answer arrived. Like mine, it was wordless, a mere image. Like mine, Rysand's tongue was out, but it was occupied with doing something else. "You taking too long," he said, jerking his chin towards the bath. My breasts tightened. "Too bad, there isn't room in the tub for two." I let my towel drop to the carpet. Let him look me over as I put a hand on his chest, his heart raging beneath my palm. "Ready for ravishing?" But Rice withdrew his fingers with a soft groan, making a downward path along my neck, chest, straight over a nipple. He paused there, flicking it once. Skin to skin, wrists nudged me towards the bed, his hand netting my rear as I ran my own over the velvet softness of him. And when it again shone as brilliantly as adamant, my release cascaded through me, leaving my skin glowing like a newborn star in its wake. At the sight of it, right as I dragged a finger down the sensitive side of his wing, Rye shouted my name and found his pleasure. I stroked my hand over him once, twice, luxuriating in the feel of him, in knowing he was here. We were both here, safe. Then I echoed the movement with my mouth. His growls of pleasure filled the tent, drowning out the distant cries of the injured and dying. Life and death hovering so close, whispering in our ears. But I tasted Rice, worshipped him with my hands and mouth, and then my body, and hoped that this short of life we offered up, this undimming light between us, would drive death a bit further away, at least for another day. Maybe they're kinky after all. Faerie, there are people that are dying. That's the end. Bye. Have a starlit day. Bye.